Welcome back, listener. Let's continue with the next chapter of Till the Last Breath by Durjoy Datta. Chapter 9. Arman Kashyap. Arman crushed the stress ball in his hands as he paced around the room. He was annoyed. A few more patients had shown relapses, and Pihu would show the same signs too. The next step in their research, the stem cell approach, was progressing like bloody snails on a rainy day. No one in their hospital thought it would work. Treatments of the sort had been tried on patients in the US, and a few patients had their lives extended by a year or two. A few had died on the operating table. To make his day worse, the asshole in room number 509 had just vomited more blood than he could have had in his alcohol ridden veins. He too seemed to be dying. But even then, Pihu was top priority. He had noticed Zara standing at the door with a file of reports while he struggled with the analysis of the research results. It was one way or the other. The stem cell approach was a huge risk, a risk that he was willing to take. Yes, are you waiting for something? He asked. Dushyant is not doing that well. He has a fever now. The pain in the stomach is getting worse. His liver is getting worse. He has had two seizures in the last 2 hours. His systems are shutting down. But the antibiotics made him cough blood. So, what do we do now? She asked. Exactly. I want an answer, and I want it from you. And give him the sedatives. Make him shut up and take down a list of every drug that he had done in his lifetime. Let's see if we get something there, he said, without flinching, his mind somewhere else. Zara nodded and left the room. Arman frantically pored through the research reports in front of him one more time. They were wasting time. People were losing to the disease without even a shred of hope. But he knew that it would take him and his team years, if not decades, to ascertain and prove that the stem cell approach could work. The girl he thought he had saved, the girl who thought she had been saved, would be long dead by then. He saw her file lying across the table and flipped through it. Pihu Malhotra, 19, medical student. The words floated in his head, refusing to settle down in an undiscoverable corner. Why was he so hell bent on trying the treatment before it was time? Was it desperation? Was it the guilt from having someone believe that he had cured them? He didn't know. With her file in his hand, he left his office and headed for the third floor. In the lift, he read through her file twice, nervously flipping through the pages, wondering if she had lost herself in the disease. He wondered if she, like the many patients he had seen dying, had let the disease define her. I was diagnosed 3 years back. I first noticed it when I was driving. Is there a cure? These were often the first responses Arman heard from his patients who had lost to the disease way before it eventually consumed them. From the little he knew of her, she was different. He entered the room and saw Dushyant lying on his bed, his eyes rolled over, sleeping under the effect of the powerful sedatives. Such a burden, he thought. On the other side of the curtain, he saw Pihu reading a book. Her mom was reading a book too. Hi, I'm back, he said and smiled. Arman knew exactly when to put his charm on. He was quite the guy to date back in medical school. Since he had grown up around medical books and people from medicine, expecting him to excel in medical school was like expecting a fish to swim. With plenty of time on his hands and with big wads of cash from his father's hospitals, he was the perfect guy to be with. But the girls who dated him back in those days admitted that his charm didn't lie in his wealth or his big brain. It was in his disarming smile and his perfect behavior. Even as a college student, he dressed impeccably, characterized by his crisp white shirts, traditional dark blue jeans, and white sneakers. One could easily spot him in a crowd. To this day, he had stuck to his dress code like a priest, white shirt and a pair of blue jeans. He wouldn't be caught dead wearing anything else. Hi, Dr. Arman, Pihu said. I see you are not wearing your doctor's coat. I'm off duty. This is my free time, he answered and sat beside Pihu. I'm glad you think of me in your free time, Pihu giggled, and Arman was sure she winked. Not like grown ups wink, but like little kids do, closing both their eyes and smiling, hoping we have closed just one. Are you flirting with me, Miss Pihu? I'm just making the most of my time here, she said. Her cheeks were now a deep shade of pink, her eyes glinted with life, and she bared every one of her 32 pearly teeth. Armand could no longer look at her like the deceased body he had seen the last time, like a physical manifestation of the words in her file. He had looked at her eyes to look for imperfections, her skin for lesions, and her body for flaws. But this time he looked at her and saw a person brimming with childlike fervor. The cute face with the high cheekbones, promising a beautiful woman in the future, the perfect eyes, the short hair that covered one half of her face, and the smile that never left her. I am glad to hear that from you. Often patients lose hope a little before we would want them to, he said. He fell silent. Had he not felt Pihu's hopeful eyes on him, he would have been a lot more comfortable doing this. Is there something you want to say? She asked. Yes, in fact, there is, he answered and paused. Do you understand the progress of your disease? Yes, I do, doctor. I was almost dead when you saved me, she beamed. Why did she have to say that? I didn't save you. A few more cases of relapses have been recorded today. It's only a matter of time before you start showing the same symptoms too. I thought I should let you know. There is only so much that I can do. What you have done for me is more than enough, doctor. In those days when I was dying, I used to stay up all night thinking that I would choke and I wouldn't even be able to call for help. I was confined to a bed for months. I couldn't eat. I couldn't talk. I couldn't even do the smallest things without someone helping me. My body was dead. You gave me a few extra days to live. I don't think you will ever know what that meant for me. I won't ever be able to thank you enough for what you did for me. You had no obligation to save me. In fact, you could have lost your license if you were caught. You still can get bad. I don't think there's anything more you could have done. It's sweet of you to think like that, he said, barely recovering from what he had just heard. Beneath the chirpy, smiling demeanor, there was a grown up girl, armed to fight the disease with all she had. All of a sudden, he didn't want to talk about her disease anymore. He didn't want to be responsible for snuffing out the glimmer from her eyes. So, how was your college? Did you like being there? Why don't you tell me about it? Her grin got wider. After that, she was unstoppable. She told him everything there was to know about her fascination with medicine right from the 8th grade when she first decided that she would become a doctor. Arman heard her out patiently. Not much registered in his mind. Lost in the narrator's boisterous laughter and enthusiasm, he couldn't keep track of the conversation. Just to stamp his presence in the conversation, he started to ask her a few trick questions about medicine. After she got 20 of them right, she said irritably, Everyone knows these. Even I didn't know the answer to a few of them, Arman thought, and looked at her in awe. She was brilliant. She reminded him of a young him who was hated because he was annoyingly brilliant. How was yours? She asked. Huh? Your college. You went to Ames, right? I have read all about you, she said. Yes, and then I went to a medical school in New York. I worked there for a few years and then came back. Oh, how old are you? She asked with an impish smile. How old do I look? Armand played along. Your educational details say 33, but you don't look a day older than 25, she blurted out. Armand chortled and tried to hide his happiness on hearing that. It wasn't the first time, though. Arman had often had problems in the past making people take him seriously because of his boyish looks. Luckily, he was finally growing up. So, she asked again, how old are you? A little older than 25, but younger enough to date you, he said and smiled. He saw her blush and melt into giggles. Let's go out sometime then. You can carry the drips and the injections for me. I'm sure it's more interesting than carrying handbags. Plus, I won't really take time to get ready. I have come to like this robe. Arman nodded and tried to ignore the hint of dejection in her voice. There is something I wanted to talk to about, he said. I called up your college. You did? Why? I wanted to know about you. They told me that you were a brilliant student. Surgery, that's why you wanted to get into, right? Yes, since always. You have no idea how many carrots I ate because they told me that you need a 6 out of 6 vision to be a surgeon. My mom always said carrots were good for the eyes. She chuckled. Arman laughed with her. She was strangely amusing for a girl. You would have made a funny surgeon. Not with these hands, she said and pointed out. We can get you all right, he mumbled. Can you? Because I would hate to operate on someone like this. We are not sure though. I know what you're thinking about, Pihu purred. The stem cell research, right? But that hasn't been approved yet, has it? Has it ever been tried on anybody? It will take 20 years to confirm that the treatment works, Arman replied. He was impressed at the girl's retentive power. The research website had published a few articles on the stem cell research and how it should only be tried on patients in their last stages because of the high risk involved. Arman never bought the argument and thought it was stupid. So, we could do it on you. Arman weighed his words. He didn't want Pihu to freak out since those articles clearly stated that deaths resulting from those procedures were far too many to try it on comparatively healthy patients. Aren't you like the best young doctor in the country? A sensation in the field of medicine? Her words made Arman a little uncomfortable, a little proud of himself, and a little happy. The science conferences where people used to glorify his successes never mattered to him, not even a bit. But her words did, and he felt strange about that. Some people say that. And won't you be risking your medical license and probably find yourself in jail if anyone finds out about this? More or less, he answered. So either you are crazy or very confident that this will work, she said. Arman noticed her forehead crease. He wished he could tell her that it was neither. Simply put, it was the only way to save her from dying. A bit of both. I think it's your call then, she said and smiled. Her doubtless confidence put him slightly off balance. If the treatment didn't work, he knew he would just accelerate her deterioration and make her die sooner, if not instantly. I will think about it, Anman said, shaken. He got up from the bed. Fine, she said. If it doesn't work, let's not talk about it. like the lyrics of that song, What Doesn't Kill You? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger? She asked. He nodded. Arman shook her hand and said, Our date is still due. I'm looking forward to it, though I might have a problem with choosing what I will wear. I'm thinking of being a little bold and wearing the blue robe instead. Or, I don't know, I'm having trouble deciding. They laughed till their stomachs hurt and till Dushyant breathed in his sleep. I will be back soon, Arman said and headed for the door. Dr. Arman? She called out. Yes? Did you really call my college? No, I didn't. But no one who is dying would read all the books lined on your side table. 4 out of those 15 books are on surgery, he said. You are smart, she said and winked. And you are cute. People tell me, he replied. And I am not 35. I am younger, much younger. He left the room. His steps were unsteady as he trudged back to his office. His head felt strange, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel like going with his gut. In other cases, he would have just started the treatment, putting everything on the line. Never ever did he think twice before putting a patient's life at risk for what he believed in. He knew he would save them eventually, but this time he wasn't sure. The smile, the childlike wink with both eyes, the promised date, they haunted him, pricking him like little pins in his heart and in his head. A strange mix of pain and pleasure, quite like acupuncture. Through the day, as he mechanically worked around patients and reports. She is just a kid, he told himself. End of chapter 9.